And it's just the three of us. We can make it if we try. Okay, enough of my singing career. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition, to another installment of hashtag Fade to Black. I am your host, Donna Elamonte Morris, here with Beast Johnson. And great to finally have back Anita Joke, aka Teach. Teach. You know
Thank
what? I'm
you.
just
It's
with
good to
Teach.
be back. I
Put you
miss
right in
you
the
all
middle,
as
too.
well.
Put you right there
The
in the
Yeah,
fans
middle as
have
I'm.
separate
missed
all this
you.
male testosterone.
Yeah, I
Man,
know.
y'all need Teach back on here. It's too much of y'all men on there. Y'all need the women back on there. I need to go. Y'all get Teach. When Teach coming back
Yeah,
on?
yeah,
What's
and
she
I've been
doing with
getting
her
that
life
from
that's so important? She need to be
hmm
back on the show.
they Teach. They love you. They sure do
Thank
love you.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
They love you.
I
Even
love
even
him
McCary.
too.
Even
Hey,
McCary
Keith. Our
Well,
number one
okay.
fan, Keith.
say.
Now look
But
at Keith. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, man. You are definitely one of the more well-known fans here, but you got some competition there. Now you ain't the only one that feel as though you the number one fan. So be ready for singles, tag team. You might end up in a good old fashioned slobber knocker, like JR would say. But you got some other fans coming for that number one title. I'm just putting that out there.
but McCary,
Just
he's
letting it be known.
Marine. He's Marine. He's a
I'm
double
ready for
dog.
goddamn.
he,
Yeah,
he,
he's a
he's
double
holding
dog.
his spot. He's holding
Yeah,
it and holding it well.
double. Not even a spot. That's what he called a home. But other than that, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna take a different direction, even though it's a continuation of the conversation we had on Wednesday's show. We need to place the focus back on what's been going on with Breonna Taylor and live protests, and even here in Seattle, it's becoming ground zero once again. But before we do all that, y'all know what we got to do. Getting into these opening statements, and since she is back, we are going to start with Teach. Once I find the here we go. Got it.
Good evening, everyone. Aquaba. It has been a minute since I've been on in the beginning of the show, and it's good to be back. Um, justice or miscarriage of justice. It is said that if we do not learn our history, we are bound to repeat it. So in 2020, we are repeating history with a miscarriage of justice in the case of Breonna Taylor. Did you know that this verdict came down the same day as the verdict that freed and allowed the murderers of Emmett Till to go free? How is that for history repeating itself? The same very day that the indictments are thrown out. There's no indictment, there's no wrongdoing, and a Black life has been lost, but there is no responsible party that will suffer any form of justice. Ladies and gentlemen, we must begin to learn our lesson. Many times we are in a position, we feel helpless, we feel despondent, we feel powerless. But we have power. We have power, but we have to take on the steps to be brave and courageous to utilize the power to effect a change. Unless we utilize the power and step out of our comfort zones, and we will always feel that miscarriage of justice. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is my opening statement for tonight.
Once again, it's great to see Teach back on the show. My opening statements is it's a summary of all of our past shows and me as a host. As a host, it's me that basically mediates the room, as I would call it, and have a platform for people to speak their truths. And at the same time, me as a host, have knowledge, but also learn new knowledge as well as with the audience. So I'm here to tell each and every one of y'all, every time when we have a show, even when I put my own 2 cents and how I feel in the mix, I learn something new every day. It does make me think more outside the box. It makes me think more into the things that I see, that I hear, that I touch every day. And the panel that I have, I couldn't be more blessed to have, with different diverse ideas, even with Professor O, even though we call him Mr. O, Teach. Even though me and him kind of go back and forth on Facebook, but it's all our mutual respect. But even with Mr. O, when I say that if Hope was a person, it will be him. I'm not doing that to poke fun or just to pull a smile on his face. It's the truth. With all the things that he say, he does let you see humanity in a whole different way on how we should see it. Beast Johnson, he bring that street smarts, that hustler mentality to this show. Quick on his feet, and he will understand it. And then even sometimes he will help us to understand what the other person's saying. And then you got Teach. She's not only the only female, the only woman on the show. She takes that motherly approach to keep everybody together, but at the same time give her world, give her side of what she sees and what she knows. And then Seepaway, who's recently was our new panel member. Well, I just call him our special appearance panel list. When he came in and he brought in his word of Pan-Africanism and just opened everybody's eyes to his world and what a world for Black people should be. And then y'all remember Mr. Allen Bragg, we miss you. Can't wait to welcome you back on the show. And how he brought his grit, his leadership, and he set the tone. When anything that comes out of his mouth, you know that it's gonna be stuck on your mental. That was Bragg. And I know every time when I'm on the opening statement or the final thought, I always talk about the show because this is my baby. But I just love the conversations and the people that I have here and special guests as well coming on this show and giving you all this knowledge that you won't get anywhere else. So yes, I'm going to keep tooting this horn of my show. And I can't wait to go into and dive into this show. And I yield the floor.
For my opening statement, I want everybody to take a moment to analyze your self-worth. We often get so focused on achieving a dream or achieving a certain goal. And when we're presented with the means to achieve it in a rather quick fashion, we don't take the time to necessarily think about what type of payment will come from us. I use case in point, Dave Chappelle. And when he did what he did, his explanation was quite simple and very understanding. And as his father explained to them is, think of the highest number that you can. And if they're willing to pay you that right then, right now, know that what they're going to expect from you is going to be nowhere near the money that they just gave you. They're going to get way more out of you than that. If you're not willing to put up with that type of situation, then when presented to it, you need to walk away. You got to know your self-worth. The easy way to understand it is if you don't know your own self-worth, then anybody will be able to sell your worth. And you will not get the handsome share of the profits. So as we move forward, as we educate ourselves, as we advance ourselves, we need to take that time to look within ourselves and take a value assessment of what we have and what we bring to the table. And how much is that worth to us? Is money worth more than your self-respect? Is materialism and physical manifestations, are those worth more than your self-identity? Is anything in this world more important than yourself when it all boils down to it? Because if you can't take care of yourself, and if you don't think highly of yourself and don't really care for yourself, how can you expect to care for others? Or more importantly, have others care for you? So let's remember our self-worth and let's move forward. And I yield the floor. Let's start the show.
All right. Sorry for the quickness, Beast. Quick on the freaking draw. I'm like, dang it. I apologize on that one. But on that, Teach, I'm gonna let you lead on this one because your final thought about the verdict that happened in Louisville, Kentucky, it really resonated with me. So I believe it's only right that you're the one to lead into this story and give your thoughts on how you feel about this and be nice verdict.
Well, I can only be nice. There's a few things that I want to address that the public seems not to fully understand or comprehend. And I'm going to start out with the attorney, Mr. Crump. He negotiated a civil suit in the form of $12 million. And many people are taking the attitude, he's just about the money. He never is able to get an indictment. And, he has become rich off of cases like these. And the first thing that we have to draw the line between civil action and criminal action. He is a civil attorney. And in his right, he has been successful in terms of negotiating some type of financial settlement for the families of the slain. So when you understand that, then you see him in a whole different light. But oftentimes, we hear attorney, he's, fighting for the Breonna Taylor's family. So therefore they think he should have been the one, getting the indictment. But that's for the district attorney. That is for the other set of attorneys. So his case was totally a civil case, and he was successful in what he did. And one of the landmark things about this case is that they build in legislation that would change the way the police officers interact with civilians. So it wasn't just the money. There was a monumental or landmark change to the no-knock warrant. So that is like a little small glimmer of hope. And though it may be small, it is a step in the direction that we need to take the police department. So with that, I've seen, the internet can be very cruel. And when they don't like you, they go in on you hard. I've seen some posts that will make you shudder. But the fact of the matter is he was successful in negotiating and getting some type of financial compensation for the life of Breonna Taylor. The dollar amount that can be questionable, but he was able to do it. But it wasn't just the money, it was the legislation and the change in policy that was more victorious than anything else. Secondly, the whole issue with the no-knock warrant. I have to take a breath. This is clearly a case where they changed the laws, or they changed change everything to make it fit to the wrongdoing. The report that I first remember, now the reports have changed, but the report that I first remember is that, one, they were at the wrong address. So for me, if they were at the wrong address, everything just wrong about the case.
Yep.
Second thing, I believe they had gathered 12 witnesses, but only one witness they were able to use their testimony. And this one witness says that they heard the police announce themselves. So my mind is thinking, well, it was a no-knock order, which meant that they did not have to announce themselves. Then the other 11 witnesses that said they did not hear the officers announce themselves, but the one that heard that they had announced themselves, to me, seems contradictory to the case. It seems like they should have taken those 11 witnesses over the one witness that heard an action that most likely didn't take place. Because if it is a no-knock order, a warrant, they don't have to announce themselves. So why would they announce themselves when they didn't have to? And why would they get a witness to corroborate that they announced themselves when they did not have to? I smell a rat in all of that. Okay. Then when I heard someone make the analogy that the dog in what is the football player's name?
Michael Vick.
Michael
Yeah,
Vick.
Michael Vick.
Michael Vick. The
from Warwick,
dog
Virginia.
in Michael Vick's case had more rights than Breonna Taylor, and she's a human. That when brick and mortar has more value than the actual life, because the actual officer that shot Breonna Taylor, he was not indicted, but they made a sacrificial lamb of the officer that was indicted, and that was because he shot through the wall into another person's apartment.
Wanton endangerment.
Wanton endangerment, which meant that it had nothing to do with the life of Breonna Taylor. So this whole indictment process was a circus that was designed for show, but not for real and not for truth. Okay? They said, oh, okay, they want justice. We're going to, prolong it. We're going to bring in teams and we're going to make sure that everything kind of looks like it could be good. Bringing in false witnesses to verify something that wasn't supposed to happen according to the warrant, and build a whole case upon it. And then say, well, we issued justice, and the thing that you should not do is riot. But we protected all the buildings. We boarded up everything. We took all the police officers off call, off vacation. You couldn't call in sick or whatever have you, because we needed all hands on deck, because we know that we're wrong, and we're going to produce this lie that looks very judicial. We're going to issue this to a community that we have misserved for a very long time, and we know that they should be angry and at the boiling point. So we're going to protect our property. And as quiet as it's kept, they may have evacuated people out of the area. Okay?
So here's my Go ahead, Teach. Go ahead. So here's my question to both of you, but mainly to you, Teach. Were you surprised of the verdict and the outcome of all of this? Even though people don't look like us always want to say why you want to make it about race. Everything's about race. That a black attorney general who said that he was going to handle it through his, whole due diligence, and that he was going to let justice run its course. Were you surprised of the outcome?
No, I was not surprised, because anytime a person begins to tell you how you should feel, stripping away your humanity with every statement that they make, there is no surprise. Absolutely no surprise. When someone psychologically strips you of your dignity and tells you that your knee-jerk response or your tired response is the wrong response to pain, to death, to despair, there's no way that they could give a right answer. There is absolutely no way, because God gives us a range of emotions, not just to be decorations on the wall, because life is going to present a range of circumstances. So when you go to a wedding, you have joy. When you go to a graduation, you're happy. When you go to the hospital, you're in pain, you're hurting. When you experience a loss of a loved one, you're racked in pain, you're emotional, you're angry, you're upset. That is normal. And to ask anyone to not express the emotions that our Creator has given us is a way to psychologically annihilate your humanity. And anyone that sits in that posture, in that position, means you know good. It sounds good. Oh, the thing to do is to not react and be emotional, but we take a logical approach to boarding up our buildings with a smile. We don't give a damn about Breonna Taylor. We brought in the National Guard, and justice is going to be served. Say it with a smile. That's why they came out the song, Smiling Faces Tell Lies. Smiling faces tell lies.
And I
You
got
speak in a professional tone and you have command of how you're speaking. You're in control.
Certain
But
level
there's
of
no
decorum
depth.
and elegance.
Exactly. But there's no depth. There's nothing in there that said justice.
Substance.
Justice would have been at least one by one, if they only were going to bring in one witness that corroborated the lie, they could at least brought in one witness that was going to tell the truth. But they eliminated all truth tellers.
Yep.
Because
And
they had fashioned their story and they made every piece of the story fit in the direction they wanted it to go. That's why they eliminated the other witnesses.
what about you, Pete Johnson?
I mean, at this point, I just feel like either find some new moves or just stop. Y'all been doing the same shit for decades. We've endured it for decades. So as far as my people go, wake the fuck up. Being nice to a bully ain't gonna get you but so much. Especially if there's nobody behind to back you up. It ain't gonna get you shit for the most part. But a well-placed pencil to the side, a nice box cutter around the neck, just to show them I'm willing to go there, but I'd rather not. See, when Tease talks about, decorum, there's ways to go about it. So you smile in your face like, you have to remind people, like, I understand your point. I understand your emotional frustration. But let me remind you, kind sir, that first and foremost, I am an adult. Secondly, I'm a grown-ass man. So thirdly, you will respect me and approach me in that manner, especially if you don't want me to step outside of my character and do something that's more stereotypical, like stump a mud hole in your motherfucking face. But that would be me stepping out of line. And we wouldn't want that now, would we? No. That's how we need to approach situations from now on. I always remind people, I'm civil. I'm a gentleman. But I'm always down for some gangster shit.
So with that, I'm happy that you brought on that point, Beast. Is it time for us to actually put the foot down? And I'm gonna add on to that. I'm not gonna add on to that question. I'm gonna add on that question with my 2 cents. I'm to the point where I always said that I did not agree with protests. So I want to put that out there, because I know y'all listen to the Alamonte Show podcast. I always say that protest does not work because I feel that it's just shit thrown against the wall, hoping that it sticks. I believe boycotting
by itself. I agree with you. If it's a singular mindset, anything done with a singular mindset will not work, especially when you're dealing with situations like this. Human rights, just police brutality. You just can't think, we can protest. That's the problem the hippies had. We can protest our way to end the war. No. Right. The protest brings awareness. It brings information and knowledge. But what you gonna do after that?
Right. And see,
what you gonna do? Why?
Right. And the thing is, people who always talk about the Black Lives Matter and talk about protesting, they're sitting there, they're saying, okay, After that, then what? But then they forget the part that they keep forgetting is you expect that out of them. You expect that out of us. That's the biggest issue that nobody is seeing. That's the biggest elephant in the room. It's not about after the protest when everything's all said and done, what's the follow through? That's how they throw you off your focus. You already expected this out of us. They already know that people was going to go crazy in the streets, going back, alluding to what Teach was saying. With a smile, we're just going to board up everything. All of our important municipal buildings, our courthouses, anything that deals with our government property is not going to
anything
get
that has
harmed.
paperwork, important paperwork attached to land. Those buildings, yes, we need to hold
But
those.
not get touched. So you knew.
But even they're trying to kill the spirit of the protest by saying that anyone in certain states that's caught protesting, that they can have their rights to vote revoked.
And Tennessee had a law. Tennessee actually invoked that law, to tell you the
A
truth.
vote that barely counts every 12 to 16 years. You're going to take, don't take the only thing that I have. You know my vote counts.
Which goes back to the
Black
question.
folk get arrested for the silliest shit anyway. So you telling me as a black man, oh, if you protest, we're going to take away your right to vote. Y'all don't even count my vote anyway. Get the fuck out of my face and grab me a placard. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Fuck out of here, man.
Let's lead me to this question. Is it time for us to get really aggressive? I'm not talking about aggressive as in like now I'm gonna start being louder with my voice. I'm talking about going up there with guns and actually meaning to loot, actually meaning to burn down buildings.
It's time for us to become. I won't say aggressive because we live in this world now where people don't take the time to understand the true nature of words. So you got to use more of a thesaurus than a dictionary. So I won't say aggressive, but we should become more stern, more disciplined in our actions and our mentality, and increase the level of intimidation. We should just let it be almost, we should assert ourselves, is the best word I can say. Because to be assertive in a situation is to infer and almost imply that level of aggression if necessary. Maybe verbal, maybe psychological, it may be physical. But to assert oneself on a position or stance lets it know that however you want to take it, I'll match you. So we can either do this the easy way or play match game 2020, baby. What's good? You want to beat us in the streets? We start beating y'all in the streets.
Yeah, go ahead, Teach.
I think about something, my father's favorite Bible verse, which was, there's a peace of God that surpasses all understanding. And I want to alter that scripture. There's a patience in Black folks that surpasses all understanding.
Hallelujah. Preach it.
There's a patience that once we get to the end of it, it seems that we're given another dose of it that gives us more patience to endure. Because I think that if there ever should be a time, there will be no words. Simultaneously, everyone, man, woman, and child, would know exactly what to do. Because we have talked and talked and talked. We have cried, we have pleaded, we have marched, we have sang, we have died, and we continue to die, and we continue to die, and we continue to die.
And this is not even by choice.
Mm-mm.
Exactly.
And what
And
teacher's saying is something that's true. It's 100% true.
I think at that time, everybody would know from their gut what to do.
Yeah. But and that's my other thing.
And that's why organizing and marching and everything has failed, because that time has not come yet, because we still have a half a tank of patience left, or a full tank of patience left. So, and well, I say this because initially I felt like, oh, okay, this should be it. But when I went to that march on Washington, I
was about to bring it
realized
up.
we're not ready. We get tired of being tired. We get tired of the same thing happening, but we're not tired yet. We still have more patience, because one thing I learned with myself, and people that know me, they say, "Ooh, you have such patience," and so that's one of my qualities. But when my patience is gone, and it takes a long time for it to go, but when it's gone, I snap. I recognize that in myself. And I'm like, ooh, because, I usually didn't snap because I had that tank of patience. But when that patience is gone, you're on another level. And the patience of Black people, I don't know if the tank is full, quarter full, half full, or it has just an ounce left. I don't know. But there is patience there. And not until that last bit of patience is gone will you see. And there will be no talking. It will be action. When all the patience of the race is gone, you will see action.
But I had something to go with it. I feel like it's one part patience, but it's another part complacency that comes, that's almost birthed from that patience and correlates, kind of like the chicken and the egg scenario. Some people are complacent because they're patient. Some people become patient, are patient, and as a result of them being patient, become complacent in their situation because they're being patient, waiting on the change. And I think about the parable of the saying. I think it was you, T, talk about the person on the island prayed to God. God save me, take me from the situation. And they sent all these different signs and means for you to save yourself. You just had to let it be known, hey, I need saving, and you would have been saved. But you chose to overlook them, thinking that it was just going to come to you. Like somebody was going to instinctively know on a kismet spiritual level, you are exactly right here and in need of this type of assistance. No, you're going to have to let that be known. So that complacency is definitely something that comes that's along for the ride with this patience that we have. Most of us are patient, thinking it's going to get better. It's going to get better. A lot of us have just gone through this bullshit so much, we're complacent to it, and we kind of really don't know how, if possible, we could take the step to move forward or to move into something different because we're just so used to this.
And then there's the element of fear. If what if? And it's all ambiguous. People are afraid. Will I lose my job? Will I be able to come back to my job? Will, my whole livelihood? They're afraid of change and what that change may be. And if you let these things lead you, we just end up back into the same predicament and, go into a place of being apathetic. This is the way it is. It was like that 65 years ago. It's like that today. Nothing has changed. Nothing's going to change. And let's just go along to get along. I just hold my head down. I'll just go and do my work. I ain't gonna bother anybody. Hopefully won't nobody bother me. And we get
That goes
stuck
back
in
to my
the,
opening statement.
yeah.
Know your self-worth. If you know your self-worth, how many I would say that to anybody that has ever made that statement or about change, what am I gonna do if this happened? Ask yourself right now, since the first day you started working for your own money, as well as the first day you started taking care of yourself in your own little situation, home, car, whatnot, how many times has that thought either run across your head or come out your mouth? And God and the intelligent design of the universe and your willpower and determination not to be broke got you through it. So no matter the change, the fear will always be there. And just like before you made it through, why wouldn't you continuously make it through? Yeah, you may have to stumble, but so what? Not every hurdler clears every hurdle. They clip a couple of them, but they keep it moving.
But
that's
see,
what you need to do.
All right, so here's to bring everything together of what you and Teach are both saying. Two things, and it was something that you brought up, Beast, a couple shows ago. Are you willing to die for this shit? And when is that time where the patience is gone? When would that time, what would that moment, where would that event be? Is it going to take another 3 more deaths by the hands of police? Or maybe the outcome of the election? When is it? Because I really want to know where our patience is, because right now, if I can get like a guesstimation on how much patience we, the Black people, have, I would say probably what you said, Teach, earlier, maybe half a tank. I was kind of thinking quarter of a tank, but just like but hearing what we all both had to say, I was like, I think it's a little bit more than just a quarter of a tank, because
it's a combo. It's a combo. It's like it's half a tank of real gas, and then you throw a little half of that synthetic mess in there that's supposed to help you stretch it. So it's supposed to clear out and make that. That's all that is. It's just 2 parts, because you have a lot of people that have no more patience, but they're stuck in their complacency, and they're trying to move past the complacency because they're still screaming, "I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it," but you're not doing anything. And it comes off as that you're still patient. No, you're just complacent. You haven't figured out and woken up to figure out, hey, I can do something. I just need to put myself out there. Yeah. There's not going to be no Paul Revere saying, hey, you need to come fight for the Black cause. They're not going to come knock at your door. It's not going to be how we see in the movies. The white man's not gonna kick down your door. It's not gonna be like Biggie said, waving the fofo. You be hollering, white man, don't beat me no more. It's not gonna be that way. No. If anything, it'll be more lines of like the sci-fi movies of the 50s and 60s, where they kind of got everybody together. They controlled the population, controlled the narrative. Had already had stations assigned and had people confused and manipulated as to what they were really going. So you have people being lambs to slaughter. That's how they'll do it, because it's easy. You see in the movies, it's easy. They'll do that way. They're not going to be doing all this extra aggression, but they just do that as fear tactics to keep the majority of us in line. But that's because, like, when we're going to get paid, it's getting to the point, truthfully, where you want to talk about numbers, I say maybe, I hate to say it, like maybe 20 to 30 years. If a change is a positive forward change is not made today, we're talking about maybe another 30 years, we could really see that all boil down and see white people being lynched in the streets and seeing Black people committing white hate crimes. with no word and no cause. They're just like, what happened? Damn near 500 years of oppression happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a very sad statement, because the next 30, 40 years, I'm looking at my mortality. And what you said, it won't happen in my lifetime. And it has to
that's
happen.
That's a change I would like to see, but the violence, I don't want to see it in my lifetime. But if that's what's necessary,
it has to happen in my lifetime.
Let's go.
It has to happen.
Go. But here's the thing. With all those years, we can all talk about 400 years of slavery, and then not to mention after that we got Jim Crow and all that stuff, and we still dealing with the modernized. We still deal with the modernized Jim Crow. But are the chickens already home to roost? Because
some of them are, not all of them.
See, the thing is, it's nothing.
Some of those eggs have fried.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Some of them is. Some of them done got here. They DOA. Others are slowly dying out. But then you got them ones in the back. They sweating profusely, hacking up. Just every bit of fluid is expelling from their body. I'm fine. I got eggs to make. I got eggs. You know good and damn well they sick, but they gonna fight it. Just out of pure spite and pride.
I mean, people talk so much about karma, and you got people that don't believe in karma. Is karma still knocking at the door, or she's still on her way, or karma just,
karma
just takes
there's a way to neutralize. You neutralize karma. Understand what I'm saying? You neutralize karma when you forgive the action.
That's the point I was leading to. That's the point.
You neutralize it. You neutralize it, and then you wonder, well, how come it hasn't shown up? Well, why isn't it coming? Well, when will it show up? Does karma really happen? If you forgive it. Forgiveness means to transmute, to dismiss the charge. When you forgive it, you dismiss it. When you get a traffic ticket and you go to court and the officer doesn't show up and the judge dismisses the charge, that means what? You don't have to pay. So when you forgive, you dismiss. They don't have to pay. Karma isn't, you neutralize karma, told karma there's nothing to do. I dropped the charges. I forgave. And karma said, okay, well, I'll go on to the next.
Now,
and then,
also,
well, I can't go.
Karma as well. You got to think of the grand scheme. Karma doesn't hit on a reaction like eye for eye, 2 for 2 situation. Karma thinks bigger. Karma is that one evil friend that you go to when you really pissed off because you know they're going to think of a really fucked up thing to do. Like, oh, hey, this is what you want to do. First off, you're going to want to go to the hardware store. You're going to want to ask for Miguel. Tell Miguel I sent you. He already got the setup. But whoa, that type of person. Because karma will do some shit like Strom Thurmond. Hated his entire life, racist. The day he dies, we find out this man has a black child as black as me that he been raising. She knew who her daddy was. He had been financially taking care of this girl her whole life. And I think they did. Yeah, then I think they tried to allude to say that, come to find out, he himself was actually black and just one of the Louisiana lights that passed for white. And that's why she came out so dark.
Ain't that something?
That he himself was a black man. So he had his entire legacy tarnished. Same with Sandusky.
Sandusky from Paterno for the Penn State.
Yeah.
the scandal with the kids.
Done.
Wow.
Done. Like karma will get you, but karma starts to think like, depending on what you do, a simple slap, a simple offense, that's simple karma. When you really start messing with people, you start getting on like a form of karma that white people are seeing is like T says, the reduction of their ranks due to interracial breeding. And then the reduction of their ranks of those that actually agree with white supremacy views and beliefs due to interracial dating. So you've lost over half of your population either to death or just cultural differences. They're not on your side. Just because they look like you, they're not on your side. And you know that now.
Mm-hmm. And see, which also, damn, I had a thought in my mind and it just slipped out. No, I found it. So he's not on the show today, Sipaway. You know, he's been talking about the Pan-African and saying getting this land and that we should go under our own set of law, govern ourselves. What will you think? Do you think that philosophy is what we need right now, or something that still needs work?
It's something that still needs work. It's a viable option. As an American, you have to remember that this is the land of not only opportunities, but choices. And every opportunity and choice has a positive and a negative benefit and consequence. So if you want to achieve anything in America, the proper way to do it is to give people viable options. If they have enough options to where only one of them kind of seems bad, but there's at least 2 or 3 of them that are worth considering, they're more liable to get in line with what you're talking about and whatever it is you're trying to say. So as we need to, like I was saying, we need to go back and take what we have learned and been forced to learn and use it for our benefit and use it to actually articulate the plans and ideas that we're trying to articulate, because this is the language we were forced to learn. So any way that we try to move forward and educate and wake up our brethren, we have to use this vernacular. We have to use this vocabulary because it's the same vocabulary and language that they're accustomed to. We just have to use it in a better way.
Well, I think that there's many ways to do this. This is not a new concept. It's just a concept that just simply does not take in the African American community. What we're talking about is a closed society. And W.E.B. Du Bois, he was one that really talked about having a closed society. Malcolm X even came down the line and also talked about living in his own neighborhood. And it's not a hard thing to accomplish. There's land out here to be purchased. Every family purchased some land and incorporate it. You get so many people on the land, you can incorporate it as a city, village, depending on the number of people that's there. So it's easy to do. In 2020, it's easy to do. I read an article not too long ago about 19 families that bought land together. 19 families, African American families at that. So people are doing it and engaging in it. What Sipaway, the way he wants to go about it, or the things that he suggests, is too heady. And when I say that, I mean drawing up the city charter, drawing up the rules and bylaws about how we're going to govern ourselves, drawing up this, drawing up that, where we have an example of people say, okay, you got $1,000, I got $1,000, there's a piece of land, let's go purchase it.
Yeah, because
So
I did see
it seems more lofty than practical. When I understand what you're saying, Teach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
That's
time.
why I asked which
like
is more
I said
feasible,
earlier,
which is
when it's time to do things, you don't talk, you don't think, you just get into action and began to do. These people wanted to have some autonomy. They wanted, so 19 different families collectively went and purchased a huge plot of land. They can build it up and make it whatever they want it to be. But if we just stay on the drawing board, never get off the drawing board, we're never going to get there. Some successful closed societies, nations within nations, are the Amish community. The Amish, the what is the other one? The I can't say it. Oh my God. Well, they're very similar, but they're different. These people, they purchase land, they mind their business, and they get incorporated, and they do whatever they have to do to have their sovereignty within the United States. It can be done, even if it starts with one person. It absolutely can be done. But the question is, where are you going to find like-minded individuals that will believe like you believe? That will say, hey, I'm willing to put in 10 grand. I'm willing to put in 30 grand, for so many parcels of land, all in the same area. I'm willing to develop it. I'm willing to bring my money. I'm willing to bring my skills. I'm willing to bring development. I'm willing to put a factory on the land. You're going to buy the land. You're not even a farmer. Don't know anything about land. What good is that?
Right.
But if one of the things I talked about years ago is inter-trade or inter-manufacturing between Africa and my state, specifically my city. Before I left the city was going down. We lost the major industry, which was the auto industry, and all the offshoot industries from that left the city. So we had to find a new way to survive. And one of the things in my travels to Africa, I seen a lot of raw products. And in my mind, I'm thinking we can ship those raw products to Detroit and we can manufacture those products. Grow black, mine black, produce black, get it to the United States, to Detroit, manufacture black. So you have a black product from the beginning to the end and put it back on the market. So thinking globally, how can we tap into what you have? You have the product, have nowhere to sell it. Sell the product to us, we'll manufacture it into a finished product. We're a factory town. That's what we do, manufacture. That's what we make. We make cars out of sheet metal. Used to be, I don't know what kind of materials they use now in cars, but hey, you take sheet metal, take some pipes and some leather and put it together, and voila, you have a car, right?
That's true.
So if in purchasing this land, what's on the land? If the land is not good for soil, let's put a factory on it. And let's put workers in the factory. Let's ship in the raw materials and let's produce some products and put those products on the market.
I wish Seepaway was on the show, because he would have came and he would like, but look, Teach.
The story she tells about the 19 families, I'm pretty sure it went somewhere along their lines. Like, hey, one family, one particular person found out about the land, saw how big it was, already knew of at least 2 to 4 other families that could benefit from it. Like, yo, we got enough room where we all have a crib. You got room that you and me was talking about wanting to do a gun range, an outdoor gun range. We could do that. Man, then you start talking more about how we gonna do it. Where, my cousin, and he got a construction business and he be doing that. bring them in. And you start bringing more people. It's like, look, this is what we're trying to do. This the land. And before you know it, you got 19 families, all the different trades and skill sets that range, that are pretty much sufficient enough to build up a whole city. I would just safely presume these individuals could all come together on their land and build up their own little city.
But speaking of that, when we come back, we're gonna start talking about this election. Like I said, we going into. Go ahead, Teach.
It was 19 Black families to buy over 90 acres of land to create a safe city for Black people. And this was in the state of Georgia. So people are already doing it. So it's just a matter of coming off the computer, going, looking at the land, getting people to chime in and buy it. So look up the city charter or a village charter. I think you need like 500 people to get incorporated as a village.
And when she's looking up this information, ladies and gentlemen, she's not throwing shade, okay? I promise she's not throwing shade. But other than that,
informing.
Yeah, so other than that, everybody get back to your corners. But we do have a network that's coming up soon, and we will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait till the Wet Network finally comes up with great material, great content, and also great music. And also this show, cannot wait, pioneered by myself and my dog, Beast Johnson. And then also, since we doing some sponsorship shout outs, don't forget to check out realcheddarboypopcorn.com.
Yeah.
Check it out, realcheddarboypopcorn.com with two new great flavors. Check it out. Then also, don't forget to help support the show. Merchandise. I just got this last week. Ladies and gentlemen, that could be yours. Shipping is free until the 30th of September. So get your merch to help support the show today, and they're going to continue strolling at the bottom. So let's go ahead and get into politics. Now, I understand when voting comes up, people got their different views. We have some panelists that believes that voting doesn't even give a damn. We should just throw away the whole entire system. And then we got a certain set of panelists that believes that voting changes things. It does have an effect on our democracy. So with what the things that are going on right now, what can we do? Because yes, I'm a little more of the people that says, voting just do not count, just do not matter. Okay, fine. What are you going to do to change what is going on around you?
Well, one thing people can do is that people do it jokingly as presidential candidates, but when it's time to nominate, you have the option on pretty much all applications for other, where you can write in something of your own. So if everyone collectively just decides to write in one particular name or entity, whether that name or entity actually exists or not, it automatically brings attention when a substantial amount of people write in the same name, especially a substantial amount of people from different states. For example, if folks say we want to name the new Wakanda, the United Nation of Wakanda, and 250 million people actually put that on the ballots, they would actually then have to acknowledge the specific purpose. Like, how did you get a legitimate 250 million people to legitimately write that in? That wasn't a joke. That wasn't bots. That wasn't a hacker. Those were actual votes. So now that has to bring the attention to it. That's the easiest and quickest way to bring some kind of change for this current election. Aside from giving people finite reasons like, okay, we all just need to leave or we just all need to reset. No, that's why I said Brexit, because that was an option that the government actually put before the people. It was like a principle. Do you as the nation feel that this is a favorable course of action? And they gave it enough time for the people to talk amongst themselves, be informed and educate themselves before actually making that decision. So that is a better format for us to go about doing this if we want to do it. Whatever options that we feel like as a nation are good, those are the options we need to put before us, and those are options we need to vote for. Because people don't vote either because they say their vote doesn't count, or there's nothing that they're really affecting them. Like the way it's presented to them, they don't see a connection to what they're voting for. How is me voting for this person going to affect my regular day-to-day life?
Right. What about you, Teach?
I found the numbers to incorporate as a city or a village.
And, I see over here looking at the charters.
Yeah, the standards of incorporation for a home rule village, a population of 150 people minimum, with a density of 100 to the square mile. So if you got 150 people, you have at least a mile, you can incorporate as a village. If your population exceeds 500, you can apply for home rule city. So for the Wakanda, you can have your own Wakanda within the United States, a nation within a nation. The numbers are small in terms of starting. Think 19 families. 19 families, that's 19, a minimum of 19 people. But say each family is 4 or 5 members. How many people is that? It's enough to have a village.
Mm-hmm. 19 okay. At max 5, 4, 5. Yep.
And then not to mention,
just under 100.
That's just the immediate family. What happened if they had cousins that live with them too? And kind of think about that too.
Well, it was 19 different families, not one family of 19 people. It was 19 different families that got together. So it can be more. So what I'm saying is, when you're ready to act, we have systems set up already for you to do it. And as I was reading in this charter, as a home rule village, you're not obligated to the county. But once if you ever grow and exceed your numbers and become a city, then you're obligated to the county.
And even though we going back to this
that's pretty much what the Amish. Now that you mentioned it, that's pretty much what the Amish do.
But see,
that's exactly what they do. Hold off on the outskirts of town.
But see,
but just enough to legally be able to take care of themselves without being holden to the government, while still maintaining acceptance within the government.
But see, is that the issue? Is that the issue with us, where we have the resources, but we're just like, we sick and tired of what's going on? And
the issue is we ask ourselves how, okay, I'll use a perfect example. There's a video floating around. It's done comedically but it's the whole I don't answer questions. If you ever pulled over by a cop, I don't answer questions. And then it's a lawyer explaining why you say those 4 words, I don't answer questions. But in the video, you notice there's nothing but white dudes that's saying it to the cops, and the cops are being forced to walk off. And then things like black guys like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to work for me if I do. And it ends jokingly with him getting arrested, just walking randomly past a cop. Because that's the mentality and perception that most black people have. We could do it, but history has shown us that at some point, some random dose of fuckery will befall this nation. And it could be something as simple as Tulsa, where they just hated the fact they was getting money, or something like Rosewood, where you just got a lying heifer that got caught up. But we know that some level of fuckery would eventually come to that village or to that town. So it's like, do you want to, as promising as it is, do you want to take the risk of being that resident, or having your family be, is go back to that what ifs or fears that in your head, like, well, we could start it up, but what if that shit happens right after we start up the town, or after we done got established and, we done had a couple families, maybe a generation or two done grown up in the area, and then it happens. So do I want to go out like Philly? Do I want to go out like Tulsa? Do I even want to start it? So you get back to that complacency. You're just scared. You don't want to do it. But I feel like I kind of feel that. I understand it. But I feel like shit, honestly, legally, those Amish are also considered as a religion as well. So religion holds a lot of weight in America. So Black people come together under a religious banner outside of Christianity, and that'll definitely give you more legal recourse and leeway to get this united Wakanda. It kind of sucks, but that's kind of got to play the game that way.
What about you, Teach?
I just simply think is a line that separates doers from non-doers. Doers are not going to think about all the what ifs. They're going to think about creating that utopia for themselves and their families, and come what may. Because if they thought about everything that could be bad, could happen, it's no guarantee that it will, but we know that it might. But why even clog your mind with that? Why even slow yourself down with that line of thinking? So a doer is going to say, okay, this land is going to cost me $10,000. I got $8,000 saved. If I work a little bit harder, blah, 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 in a couple of months, I'll have the rest of it. By the end of the year, I'm going to purchase my piece of land or whatever have you. So it's possible, it's doable. But the thing is, like you said, if you come up under a religious thing, first thing people are going to think is a cult, Jim Jones. Oh, I'm not going to go be part of that. And that would be limiting. That would be very limiting in terms of what the vision is for the city. I'm quite sure this family or a group of families have a vision that they want to implement in the city. They probably have rules and bylaws that you probably wouldn't find in a normal, regular city. So I would like to see the development as they develop and go on. But my whole point is simply, if anyone wants to do it, it can be done. If you are a doer. If you're a non-doer, you'll see every reason why you cannot do it. And that even includes the poor. Because their mentality is, some of their mentality is, well, I'm poor, I could never do it because I could never have the money. But if they really wanted to, the money would come. And I was talking about this to someone last night, that the year that I did my last festival, I went in debt. I used up every nickel, dime, quarter, penny that I had, and I still was left in debt, to the point that I didn't want to do another festival. Well, one of my organizers that have been working with me, and he said, Sister Anita, he said, you got a good thing going on. He said, even if you don't have the money, he said, still do it. And at the time that he said it, it sounded like foolishness to my ears. It was utter foolishness, because I used my pension, everything, to make it work. Fantastic program. And it wasn't until a few years later that those words of knowledge sunk into my head. If you don't have the money, and sometimes it's not the money that makes things happen, it's the will. You have the will, and the money and everything will come. That poor person, how do they know they don't have a rich uncle or aunt that's just gonna die and leave them a whole bunch of money?
Right.
Right,
that's true. True.
You're looking at your circumstances, and you're letting the lack of money guide you, instead of letting your will guide you and letting the universe get behind you and fund the project that you want to go forth. So
without being honest with yourself.
Woo, teach. Hold on, let me have to. That spirit.
you have to let your dream or your vision guide you, not what you lack, because you don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. You don't know that in this dilapidated apartment that you living in, that it was some 1920 gangsters that lived there, 80 years ago, and they hid some money in the wall, and your ceiling falling in, and you complain, oh, my ceiling falling, and you don't know it's the ancestors up there throwing that drywall off the wall so you can see that $1 million up there. You don't know. You don't know. Okay? You don't know. And then when the money finally fall out the sky, so to speak, you realize your blessing then. But sometimes you have to let the universe work for you. You have to let you just can't not have that lack mentality and think anything is going to happen. You have to say the universe is for me. I have this to do, that to do, and I need money is a vehicle to do the things that you need to do. And I seen a post the other day. It says, do you need money? And I put up there, no, I don't need money. Money needs me. Money needs me. Money needs me to do the things that I need to get accomplished. Money needs me to buy that island. Money needs me to build on that island. Money needs me to build that factory and put people to work. Money needs me so I can pay the workers. Money needs me. I don't need money, but money needs me because I have a vision. I have a purpose. And I have the universe behind me. And the universe is going to bring the money, the finances, the backers, the investors to make it happen. I cannot think, oh, I can't do anything because I don't have any money. I have the vision, but I don't have any money. No, money needs me. We need these things done. We need to solve the problem of poverty. How do we solve it? By giving everybody an opportunity to work and put their effort forth. If they put their effort forth, we have the money to pay them.
Woo, before we go any further, Teach, where have you been all this damn time? Good grief.
She been holding it in. She she been gone for me. And she's like, I got just
gotta let it go. Just gotta let it go. But we just had somebody just come on in. It's our boy, Brother Cliff.
Good evening.
Good evening, Cliff.
Now, I was gonna add on to what Teach was saying. You got to be honest with yourself as well when you putting it out there to the end to the universe. It was a quick story in my youth when I ran the streets and was unfortunately had to go get that paperwork by the court. My public defender said, "Well, the DA says if you could give us $3,000 in 30 days, then they'll just go ahead and drop the case, and you won't have anything to worry about. It won't even be on your record." And I replied to him honestly. He said, "Sir, if I had $3,000 at hand, I wouldn't have did what I did to put me in front of you in the first place." That's number one. Now, if they're not willing to work with me, I will get you $3,000. But I'm telling you right now, if you allow me to leave this courtroom, I'm going to rob a couple people between here and the bus stop so I can get me enough money for an 8-ball. And I'm going to use that to get the rest. I'm going to get you your $3,000 now. But selling drugs got me in this situation. So unfortunately, selling drugs is the only way I can really get myself out right now. Immediately. So you can tell them that, but I'm being honest with you. If y'all let me leave here, I'm liable to rob at least one of your lawyer friends. It's no disrespect, but I need to get that money for that 8-ball. And he went and talked to the DA. About 20 minutes later, he came back. He said, "Oh, look, you're just going to be on probation. Just sign the paperwork. You get to walk out today." Probation? Y'all not going to arrest me? Do I need to get you? No money. It's just on probation, supervised, no problem. Word! Thank God to the universe. Because I let the universe know. If push come to shove, I'm going to shove. So if I got to go out here and get in the mud in order to clean up my life, well, then I'm going to be a hog in heaven then. And when you have that type of energy, you put that out there into the universe, help will find you for help's sake. Because help will be like, if I don't help him, I'd rather help him than him inadvertently hurt me in the long run.
Right. And I'm gonna go ahead and sum up everything that you and Teach was saying. Faith without works is dead. Period. Period.
Is that Hebrews 11:6? Was that 11:11?
I believe it was 11:11. But I will say this. I got my bell buddy Tuesday. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna catch Brother Cliff on the show. So we was actually talking about start off with Breonna Taylor and the non-convictions, and were we surprised about it and giving our feedback. So I want to ask you, how did you feel when you heard the verdict?
I was not surprised. I was I guess I could say I was offended and I was angered, but to some degree that even implies a degree of shock, and I was not shocked by it. All you have to do is take a look at other instances where they got away with it. Darren Wilson got away with it with Mike Brown lying on the streets of Ferguson for hours after Ferguson shot him. The guy in New York managed to strangle Eric Garner to death on a sidewalk in New York City, and he got fired, I think, but I don't think he actually had to face any criminal charges. The cops who rolled up on Tamir Rice and blew him away within a space of about 2 seconds did not face any criminal repercussions. I think the South Carolina cop who shot Walter Scott in the back did, did have to face some criminal penalties, and I'm not sure about the police officer abuse Sandra Bland. I think I'm trying to remember what happened to him. He didn't come out of that one unscathed, to say the least. But for the most part, when these guys have done this, at some point or another, the authorities have come out and they've either said that the officer acted according to his training, or the officer acted within the bounds of the law, or the officer acted within the constraints of procedure. So whether or not an actual crime of violence was committed goes out the window the second the authorities can rationalize that what was done was basically what they are taught to do. So when this melanated right-wing DA in Kentucky, I'm sorry. Ooh, don't want to broad brush Tennessee. Turns around and essentially says that these guys acted within the law. My first question was, okay, well, show us that law. What does that law say? That's the first question. And assuming that the law does then turn around and back up what it is that they've done, then at that point, now you've got an issue of the law itself. The law itself being foul and some kind of means having to be taken to either change that law or to find some other way for at least people of African descent to get out from under the jurisdiction of that particular law. Maybe we got to go to Canada. I don't know.
Well, Teach she went into her little research, not only giving us to feel the spirit about was it charters, right? Town charters.
Village, incorporating a village in or a city.
Yeah, so
we were talking about closed societies, and basically you had to have, for a home rule village, 150 people with a density of 100 people within a square mile, and you can incorporate as a village.
All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and tell everybody, get back to your corners because we in the last part of the show, and when we come back, I got a question I want to ask Brother Cliff. Mainly ask everybody. But until then, we will be right back. And like that, we are back. Brother Cliff, my question for you, because you made your entrance like a thief in the night, came in. So when you were describing democracy, that resonated with me because when you said those things, it was like, how like they say the truth is right there in front of you, but you ignore to recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you explain it that way, it's just like, damn. It's like I against that. Only that I can do is agree because it's the absolute truth. But why do you think us as of people always fall for that okie doke? Is it because of who the politician is, or what they say, or a mixture of both?
I'm not sure it's necessarily so much who the politician is. I don't see much of a difference in most of them as they've come out. The ones who are, shall we say, on the more, I guess, left politically, have a tendency to say a lot of the things that we want to hear, even if they don't always follow up on them. The ones that are on the right usually are the ones who just so happen to say a lot of things that offend us. I think part of the problem is that we base our assessments of political figures on an assumption, and perhaps that assumption is that from the very beginning, our existence here in the United States in particular is the same as the existence of other communities. I would think that the indigenous community has already kind of figured this one out. Having seen enough of broken treaties, having remembered better, perhaps for them, things like the Trail of Tears and the Sand Creek Massacre and things like that, maybe they have a better understanding that this particular government is truly um, and for them at least, an invading party that has come and taken them over, has conquered them, and continues to rule over them without regard to their welfare, their well-being. We, for some reason, perhaps because we have gone through decades of struggle in an effort to A, prove to our oppressors that we are worthy of respect, that we are worthy of being embraced, and B, expecting that if we make that appeal, that moral appeal, that our habitual oppressors will finally stop beating us like they've been doing. As a result, I think that colors our assessment of our relationship here in the United States. And so as a result, we don't look at the Democratic and Republican parties as two wings of the same buzzard, as a friend of mine has often said. Instead,
Exactly.
we think that we always want to choose one or the other. So as a result, you've got the blue no matter who crowd who's going to say, well, the Democrats are always, they're always in our corner. We had to go to the Democrats in order to get the federal government to come out and defend us when right-wing Republicans tried to take our votes away. Then other people who will turn around and say, well, the Democrats take us for granted, and the Democrats make us these promises that they don't keep. So we should leave the Democrats and go to the Republicans. We continue with this binary thinking that we have in front of us. That if the Democrats make us promises that they can't keep, that okay, instead that means the Republicans are better, or they'll say that we are the taken for granted spouse. Whereas while we make the decision to leave the one who takes us for granted, it doesn't for some reason occur to us we're leaving them to go to the one that beats us every day. So it doesn't really make any sense to me that we continue this binary mode of thinking with regard to how we view politics in the United States, and that has kept us from truly organizing an independent black-led political party, even if it's a political party that doesn't run candidates of its own, but instead puts our agenda, our platform out there, and challenges two existing parties to attempt to answer our demands. We don't do that. Instead, we either go with the donkey or with the elephant. And again, I think it's because we have swallowed whole okey doke that we are full-fledged citizens of the United States. Now, perhaps we should be, but we continue to believe that our oppressor somewhere along the line is going to stop beating us. And for some reason, we just keep on going with A and B, A and B, A and B, and we forget that there are 24 other letters in the alphabet.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so here's my question I gave to both Teach and Beast. When will it be that point where enough's enough? Now you're gonna really gonna get to hear our rep, and I'm gonna add on this my point to it as well with the question is that I always say on this show that protest doesn't work. I always start protests with just throwing shit against the wall, hoping that it sticks. So going back to the question, when is that point where it's like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of protesting. Now I'm gonna do that thing called looting and make you understand my point. What is your take on that? What do you think when that breaking point happens? What will it look like? What will it take? What event will make us just be like, we're done, we're fed up?
Well, as far as what it would take to, say, for instance, get masses of people of African descent in the United States to just, I guess you might say, and I don't like using this term because it's a term that Candace Owens has used, walk away. And I am by no means a fan of Candace Owens or the walk away at all. But if in terms of what it would take to get us to make a decision like that, it would probably something like that would probably have to be something. If it's external, it would probably have to be something unthinkable. It would probably have to be something akin to an act of genocide in order to get us as a mass of people to just suddenly throw up our hands and say we've had enough of this. So, assuming that we don't want to have that act of genocide force us to do it, the only other thing that I can imagine would be something that comes from within us. Somewhere along the line, we start actually thinking in a less constricted manner. Maybe we start listening to each other a little bit better. Maybe we find some kind of a way to get away from, again, this either binary thinking or else this notion, like for instance, you had just said before about the whole question of whether or not protest works. One of the big reasons why I think we have not advanced as a people is because we keep trying to do one thing at a time. Someone will say, well, we have to advance ourselves economically, and that's the way. And someone else will say, well, it'll take revolution. That's the way. Someone else will say, we should pray more. That's the way. Somebody else will say, you got to vote or you got no right to complain. Somebody else will say, you got to involve yourself in the political system. That's the way. You have to educate yourself. That's the way. And as I said on Wednesday, the only way that I can see right now that it looks like we have not tried is all of them. We want to do one. We think we're a one-trick pony. We think that all we have to do is one of those things in order to achieve liberation, freedom, and uplift for African people. And what we have to do is we have to do them all. But because you've got an organization that is dedicated to politics, that wants to be the lead dog, an organization that believes in revolution, that wants to be the lead dog, an organization that believes in culture, that wants to be the lead dog. And all of these organizations are still jockeying to see who is going to be the leader and set the agenda for everything. For some strange reason, it doesn't occur to them to sit down at the table with each other and work out a coordinated strategy that allows all of them to carry their plan out, to do it in cooperation with each other. And this really kind of galls me when I look at it and see it this way, because all of these different organizations keep saying Black people must come together. Africans must unite. We either stand together as brothers and sisters or we perish together as fools. The problem is not, though, that they believe that African people must unite. They apparently believe that African people must unite, quote, under my leadership. So in other words, I'll unite with all you guys if you'll do what I say. Not I'll unite with you guys so that we can get together and we can work out a strategy that that creates a situation where, okay, you guys want to do the lobbying, yeah, you do the lobbying, but we'll do it in such a way that it coordinates well with the protesters who are out there on the street. And then we'll also bring in the Pan-African media to help inform the people before, during, and after all this happens. And we'll bring the educators in who'll be able to tell us what the historical significance of a lot of these things are, what we've done in the past that has worked and has not worked. We're bringing the economics, the economics professors and the business people and everything to help us raise whatever material resources we need. We'll bring the spiritual people in, not just to get us praying to God, but to help give us some kind of guidance on a moral level, so that we'll know what we're doing is the appropriate thing to do. And oh, by the way, yeah, if they decide that they're going to attack us militarily, let's have the people who are ready for revolution in this whole fight too. But the key thing is to get them all together, get them all working together as a team. As I said on Wednesday, you take a look at these sports teams. The ones that win are the ones that take the big uglies on the offensive line, and the fleet of foot guys at the wide receiver positions, and the bruisers in the backfield, and the quarterback with the eyes and the vision and the arm, and the coaches on the sidelines with the strategy, and get them all working together. They don't all do the same thing, but they find a way to work together as a team. And right now, we are not, for the most part, working together as a team, and we are making those kinds of decisions for our detriment.
Brother Cliff, he just came in like a thief
like
in the night, and he
right
already got it. Yeah.
All right, I feel like, man, the joy I have to hear you say these words. This is what we need. This is what we need. And Mr. O, when I do this, I do this from love. Because when I hear Mr. O to me is like an intelligent rapper. Cause like he got his thing. Look, before he drop any bit of knowledge. Look.
Look. He gotta give him his seat. You gotta see.
Look.
I was
like, MCs be like, Mr. He's like,
no, hold on. Let me write. Look. I wish I had it.
I
love to hear that from you. Like everything you're saying is dead on correct. The only thing that I would add on it is we as Black people should truly ask, what do we want as a whole? Do we as a whole want to leave? Because if as a whole we want to leave, this is how we got to go about it. Now, if we as a whole want to stay, well, this is how we got to go about it. Because for those of us to say, I want to stay and I want to work with them, well, the only way that's going to really work is to give them a taste of their own medicine. As tragic as to say, I'm reminded of David Banner, and he has a song on a mixtape that got banned by the industry because of the truth he was bringing. And the end of it is a quote that says, as long as they kill us and go to Burger King and Wendy's and get to go home and go to sleep, everything is cool. But when we die and they die, then we gonna talk about it. So to clarify, when you start hearing stories of random white people being hung from trees or being presented lynched throughout the streets, when you start hearing about the same atrocities that have befall our Black brethren over the histories, when you start seeing that pop up to white people in America, like everything else, when it happened to the white folk, then shit get fixed. So you want racism to really end? You want them to stop messing with us? Y'all need your own little secret Black version of the Ku Klux Klan, and you need to start riding out and get that shit on film and show these folk that there's a sector or there's a shadow amongst the Black race that's out here on some Candyman shit. And even the Black folk don't know nothing about it. That's how you scare these motherfuckers. You give them some shit that even we be like, I don't know nothing about that. They out there doing it for real? Oh shit. Oh wow. Like that's how you scare them. And I guarantee you, we'll start having legislation and rules and more stringent race relations and race laws and hate laws will become stronger and more applicable to blacks if you start seeing images like that throughout America now.
So I'm gonna bring it back to when I brought up karma, because some things has just hit me when y'all just brought up that point. You got remember the crack epidemic? Remember it was the war. Let me go ahead and spill the beans. And I know Brother Cliff and Cheese probably gonna jump in on this too. Let us get something straight here. Yes, did Joe Biden do the crime bill? Yes, he did. But let's see where that crime bill really manifests from. It's called the War on Drugs, which Nixon, unfortunately, I have to say this, President Nixon was the one who actually implemented this bill, actually infiltrated the Black Panther, saying that there was a coke dealing organization which actually demised the Black Panther, destroyed them, put them on the freaking terrorist list, what, FBI most wanted list or something like that.
Tragically enough, actually forced
the greatest threat to American security and launched COINTELPRO on that basis.
Yeah, so Nixon did that, and then not to mention bringing drugs into the Black community, which goes on to Ronald Reagan. For some reason, lots of people bringing up Ronald Reagan. I literally had somebody look me right there in my face, like I'm looking in this camera right now, and said that Ronald Reagan was the best president America ever had. And I really want to come up my soul, want my soul to come out and smack the shit out. But other than that, I digress. He's the one that restarted the war on drugs, who really put drugs in the Black community, and also had a freaking cartel, the Contras. Look it up, ladies and gentlemen. The Contras on the payroll. If anybody's watching the show called Snowfall, that right there will show you what the drug war looks like. You want to know why Mexico's so fucked up? Go watch Snowfall or Narcos. Y'all remember Pablo Escobar? Everybody want to be like Pablo Escobar or Cocaine Cowboys down in Florida. Why Florida's so messed? But then again, Florida make it look good. Everybody want to go to Miami. It's all because of that drug money that Ronald Reagan implemented and pushed, and just pretend that it ain't happening. Black people was dying from cocaine. Anybody watch New Jack City? Nino Brown. Now black people now,
but now what they got? But what talk about karma? What they got now? They got heroin and methadone and speed, crystal meth.
What's it called? Opioids.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the fancy. That's a scientific term now. Now we need to. Now they have the issue. Now they have the problem, and it's funny. Like all the people that lived during that time, just looking like, oh, so it's not a problem. It was our problem, you know. Crack
so when it was crack, so when y'all was giving us crack, it was bad. But now y'all giving us meth. Okay.
If I might chime in, they have always had that problem. That is not new.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Now they're willing to make it not a illegal offense, but a medical necessary treatment. That's the only thing that changed. It's a misnomer to think that only Black people sold drugs or got high on drugs. Half of the drugs Black people would not even know about, except it came from the white community. Okay,
it was a white person put you on.
Right. And actually, I seen an article. This young man wrote that, there was so much drugs in his community that when that time of the war on drugs came on board, he said he never knew a black drug dealer. Everybody that he got his drugs from and did drugs with him, they were all white. When they were in high school, that's when he got introduced to the drug scene. And he said, but what he saw was that the black men and women were being charged with these drugs and going off to jail. They were experiencing the drugs, partying, having good time, and they went off to college.
Mm-hmm.
So just from his perspective, this is how the media spins it, that the African Americans are so poor, they have no outlet but to escape into fantasy and go into drugs. And I won't say blacks don't use drugs, they do, but they are not the only ones. They have good company when it comes to that and experimenting in the various drugs. And you mentioned Ronald Reagan and the war on drugs, and he actually moved that department into the White House, into the legislative branch of. How do you do that? He did it. But anyway, I wanted to go back to a point right before, when Cliff came on. He talked about how we as a people want one idea versus the other. And I see that coming from our programming in that messianic complex. We're looking for the savior, the way, instead of understanding that we are a diverse people, and it's going to take all hands on deck. Yep. It's going to take all of our thinkers. It's going to take all of our, lifters and builders and scientists. It's going to take all of us to do it. And as I said earlier in the program, when we get sick and tired, you're not going to hear people talk. You're going to see action. You're going to hear, man, did you see such and such and such and such? What? And you're going to know. It's going to be a silence. It is going to be a silence because people are going to just say this, just a little bit. But the rest of it, you'll catch intuitively. That's how this is going to go down. Because we've talked as much as talk can be talked. And there are no more words. Even if you switch and put it in another language, you have reached the end of talking. That's when we're going to see change. And that is going to be a spiritual change. Because right now we're still thinking with our fleshly minds. When we switch over and think with our higher minds, our God-like minds, our godness, at that point collectively, we will communicate telepathically. Y'all hear what I'm saying? We will communicate in a whole different way. And it'll be well understood. And in your gut, everybody, man, woman, and child, will know exactly what to do because we've had talked for centuries with no accomplishment. Well, I won't say no accomplishment. Small accomplishment.
No obvious progression.
Trinket. Let's be for real. Trinkets, little toys in the Happy Meal.
Like I said, no obvious progression.
Right.
And then I wanted to bring your minds back to the Exodusters when the people left Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama to go to Kansas and Oklahoma because of the racial tensions in their areas being so great. When it was time to go, meet me at the railroad and sun up. You went prepared, got whatever you could, scraped up your $6 or however much it cost, and you went. It was no more words. They didn't sit and plot and plan and figure out, well, if I get enough money. Some of them went promising to pay after they got to Kansas because they didn't have it before. And you know of those, the trail of the Exodus, some of those people died along the way. And then there's those that made it. So when we as a people, I'm sorry, I had to take my glasses off because it makes everything up on my face. When we as a people, when our patience is totally gone, that will move us into action. We're not going to talk anymore. There will be a silence. The only thing you will hear is and you will know.
It's-
That's it.
oh,
And it has
Well-
to happen in my lifetime. I cannot believe, like with Emmett Till and Breonna Taylor, exactly 65 years apart on the same day, that neither one of them got justice. I cannot believe that in 65 years, that would be after my demise. I don't think I'll live another 65 years to see justice. If justice does not happen in my lifetime, that means, go back to the beginning, we're not tired. And every time we think we have no more patience, something gives us more patience, because that patience keeps us in an inactive mode. When that patience, that last drop of patience is finally gone, we will see action.
and there you go.
I would throw one thing in there. There are actually two ways in which action can manifest itself in inactivity. One is if we just, as Sister Anita was saying, simply, if this is the only thing that happens, that we basically lose patience and say enough is enough. The other is if we finally figure some things out. Now, if we say, for instance, if you are in a difficult situation, there are two ways that you're going to get out of that situation. Either you're going to respond intelligently or you're going to respond out of desperation. Generally, if you respond out of desperation, like let's take another sports analogy. If you take a look at a game of football and you see the quarterback dropping back in the pocket, and you see the defenses blitzing all their linebackers at that quarterback, chances are one of two things is going to happen in that play. Either the quarterback pees on himself and he goes into a fetal position and gets crushed by the defense, or he throws the football away or throws an interception. That's the one thing. It's the bad thing. The other thing is the quarterback understands what's happening well enough in that particular play that he knows that where that linebacker came from is now a dead spot on the field, and he's got a receiver hitting that spot. Quarterback knows what he has to do. Throws the ball to that spot of the field. His receiver is there like he's supposed to. He catches the football and he runs it in for a touchdown. So there's a bad thing that can come out of that play and a good thing that can come out of that play. In our situation, we can either react based on an emotional reaction, in which case then you might have some buildings getting burned down. You might have what happened in D.C. after Dr. King was assassinated in 1968 from D.C. You had an entire stretch of 14th Street that got burned up so bad that it did not actually return to any kind of vibrancy for decades. I used to ride to my grandmother's house in Northwest DC and cross 14th Street, and for years and years and years and years and years, I would see essentially the destroyed hulk of what had once been either stores or neighborhoods or whatever. They weren't smoldering anymore. The riots were long since over, but that part of the city didn't recover for a long time. Now, That part of the city actually has recovered, but it took it a long time to do that. That was the result of essentially an explosion where people decided they killed Dr. King. We're going to lash out emotionally. It was an understandable response, a reaction, more of a reaction than a response. The flip side of it is, if we're in a situation and we're able to actually recognize what's happening and we understand what it is that we really have to do in order to lift ourselves up as a people, and it doesn't always happen like this, but when we find an effective way to respond as opposed to just react, then that's another way in which we can start to seriously change things. And that's kind of what I was sort of referring to with regard to people running from the Democrats to the Republicans and back again. Those are reactions. They're not a response. And we haven't yet enacted the response of bringing our different organizations, even the ones who insist that we must unify, together to sit around a table, look each other in the eye, and map out a cooperative solution, a cooperative strategy and way forward for African people. That is what I would refer to as a pan-African united front. But so many of us come together in a room, get 12 or 13 of us sitting at a table, and after one meeting, we declare that we now have a Pan-African United Front. Within 2 weeks, that front is gone because they didn't do the work and they didn't realize what we had to do to actually build the kind of united front that we said we want. And part of that even comes from having an understanding of history. Talking about the drug wars before, and a lot of people think it was Reagan and cocaine. But before that, it was Nixon and heroin and COINTELPRO. Before that, it was Great Britain and the opium wars in India. And before that, it was certainly someone else. So there are all kinds of lessons that can be learned from a study of history and then applying what we learned from that study of history to how we deal with each other in the present day. And say, okay, they pulled that mess back then, and the result was tragic, or the result was counterproductive. All right, we ain't gonna do that shit this time. We're gonna come up with a better way. And I think that's another way that we can seriously change what is happening to us as a people. But again, we've got to remember, ain't nothing new under the sun. History does not repeat itself, what people often do. And based upon that, how can we do things differently this time than the way we did before? And then commit to saying we're going to sit together and we're going to work out cooperatively instead of everybody fighting over.
Another great show. And once again, Brother Cliff, I'm happy that you came in. Beast Johnson had to go. He had some things he had to take care of. So unfortunately, he will not be here to do his final thought, but we all know what his final thought was going to be. So, but we're going to go ahead and head on in there. First of all, I'd like to thank the panel that was here. Thank y'all so very, very much. Teach, bringing the fire and bringing the spirit. Good grief. I need to go and get the spirit out my arm real quick. But let's go ahead and jump into the final thought. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start it off. Here I go. Wish me the best. My final thought is this. There's so much craziness going on in this world. And it just made me lose faith in society. I'm not even going to lie to you. Every day when I see somebody that looks like me, either getting killed, getting abused, not being treated as a human being, it really hurts. And is to the point where I wish that I was there. To the point where if I see that freaking police officer beating up on that somebody that looked like me, I want to jump in. Rather than just holding the camera and be like, yo, that's wrong. Get the F off him. What the hell is this going to solve? You know the crazy thing it is? Great, let me wind back, Morris. You know the crazy thing is? And this is the one thing about us that I just can't stand. That y'all would get mad at me for saying something like that. But if it's somebody different of color, you hesitate. And I know some of y'all are like, well, I'm not always like that. I always check people. I always check people that don't look like me when they say something wrong. Okay. I give you that. But I'm going to ask you this. What happened if you was there with what happened to Eric Gardner? Would you done something? Or what happened to Mike Brown? Would you done something? Or what happened to Breonna Taylor? Would you done something? See, these are things y'all have to ask yourselves. People want to turn up, get mad, don't step on my block, don't even look my way, don't step on my Jordans, don't do this and do that. But you don't have the same energy when it's needed. And I'm mainly talking to my fellas. Because I'm going to lead into this point. We have our black women out there that needs our help. And you don't have to be with a freaking black woman to defend them. So let's throw that out the way. Because yes, black women are the most disrespected, the most hated. I'm going to put it out there. The most hated group that is, I can't even put it into words. But black women deserves better. They deserve better than that. Now, I'm not going to go to the full extent saying that my mom is black and all that. I'd be damned I'd let anything happen to her. But in the words of Teach, any and every black woman, that's my aunt. That's my mother. That's my sister. That's my cousin. We need to start doing a better job, fellas. Yes, do I have a little pet peeve when it comes to them going on the Beyonce thing, thinking that they can do whatever they want without men and all that stuff? Yes, that pissed me off. Okay, cool, fine. But seeing them getting thrown around by police, punched in the face, and being treated like they second-class citizens. And you sit there and record and you do nothing. Or you just sit there and just enjoy your sandwich while they just talking to them all crazy, smack them in the face while they trying to buy some hair and get smacked up and all that. And you just sit there and do nothing. This is why we are seen as weak sometimes. It's time for us to defend our black women. It's time for us to step up for our black women. It's time for us to step up as fucking men. When we see something wrong, we need to check that shit in the butt. And stop checking each other and start using that same energy that we had toward each other to issues and situations like that. And that, I yield the floor.
I remember one time back in 1985, I was at a nightclub in Baltimore, and a friend of mine was playing the music in the DJ booth, and I was out on the floor dancing with a young lady. And right in the middle of this particular song, when my friend in the DJ booth turned the lights down, all of a sudden I heard what sounded like balloons popping. Next thing I knew, people were rushing from one side of the club to the other, and essentially I got buried under a mass of people. Turns out that there was someone who had been at the Inner Harbor who had had some kind of an encounter with another person. After that encounter, they had come to this particular nightclub, and apparently the other person followed them packing. That individual, supposedly, from what other individuals who were closer to him were saying, stood next to the dance floor, turned his back to the floor, reached into his jacket, spun around, pulled out a weapon, and fired several times into the crowd. The target was killed. Two other people were hit, one across the lip and the other one in the foot. I remember asking myself shortly thereafter, what would I have done if I had been standing right there when that person pulled out that gun? Would I have tried to disarm this person, or what? Would there have been risks to other people involved if I had grabbed that gun? Now, I like to think that I would have tried to stop this individual from firing that weapon and shooting their target on the dance floor. I asked a friend of mine who was a second-degree black belt in Shotokan and an excellent natural fighter, which I found out several times over in sparring sessions in the dojo. I asked him what he would have done, because other people who were there at that particular point in time jumped behind the bar when they saw him pull out that gun. I asked him what he would have done. And perhaps because he didn't want to appear to be a superhero or something, he looked at me and said, I'd have jumped behind the bar with everyone else. So it's difficult to say exactly what someone would have done in that particular situation, but I would have liked to have thought, if I'd been that person on that dance floor, that someone would have stopped that gunman from killing me. So looking at it from where I am now, absolutely, I think you got to do something. You can't just hold a camera and film what is happening to an individual. Although the person who's holding that camera did have a role to play. They did expose what was happening, what had happened at that particular point. Now, it's been exposed ever since Rodney King. But the more we see it, the more it becomes real to us, the more we can play whatever role we have the intestinal fortitude to play, whether that is to take action against a would-be attacker, whether it's to organize our people on the ground so that such a thing never happens again, whether it's to seek some form of political power, if that's what floats your boat, if that's what gets you over. In other words, everybody has a role to play, and not everyone's going to do the same thing. And if we want to make sure that these kinds of atrocities don't happen again, we need to get all of those different people who have those different levels of commitment, those different levels of types of expertise, that different degree of balls, if you want to call it that. Get those individuals together and map out a cooperative strategy between all of us. And when we get to that point, maybe we won't have so many Breonna Taylors happening. Some people think that one of the reasons why a lot of the repressive whites who are out there are forming militias and doing all the things that they're doing is because they know that if they were in our place, they'd be seeking revenge. And so as a result, they fear us taking power because they think that we're going to enact reprisals against them. So they're going to arm themselves ahead of time. Maybe that's so. Maybe there's a certain level of morality, ma'at or something, or Ubuntu or something like that, that predisposes us to be more forgiving than someone else might be in our place. I don't know. But if we don't find some way to start to proactively organize and plan how we're going to ensure the survival and the advancement and the uplift of our people so we can make this world a better place, then we may find out some things that we really don't want to know in a few years. So I'd say let's organize now, as Kwame Ture and others have said. Organize, organize, organize. Part of organizing means we listen to each other. We've been talking a long time, yes. One thing we haven't done enough of is listen. And with that, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen now as Teach has the final word.
Well, a lesson learned or a lesson not learned is the price that we pay when history repeats itself. So I asked the question, when will we learn? When will we learn the lesson that's being taught? What is the lesson that we should learn at this time about justice, a miscarriage of justice? How do we apply those lessons to our lives that they may become functional, that we don't have to repeat it again? You know, I speak all things spirit. And as Brother Cliff said, it's time to listen. It is time for us to listen to the voice within us, not outside of us, the voice that created our DNA, the voice that created our soul. That inner voice is the voice that we need to listen to. And I've said all evening, when it's time for us to move, there will be no more words. We will be in listen mode, because that which is our compass on the inside of us will move us, and we would know at that time what to do. I speak this not to your mind. I speak this to your soul. Let your soul hear the words. Let your soul hear the words. I speak soul food to you this evening. It is my hope that we can affect the change. And it's going to take every single last one of us. We too many times rely upon someone else, the leaders. Who are the leaders? I don't know anyone that knows themselves as the leader of our cause, because we should have a group of leaders, not just one, because we are too diverse. There are some that will repatriate back to Africa. There are some that will go, like the 19 families in Georgia, and buy up land and incorporate their own city. There are those that will stay exactly where they are, arm themselves and fight. There are those that may arm themselves and go into the street and fight. There are those that are intellectual. They'll be on their keyboard fighting with words. And then there are those that will take to the airways that will fight in their own way. It's going to take all of us individually and collectively, to come to a place of teamwork. We don't have to be unified in the way that we become one monolithic thought. No, we are diverse. And we need diversity of skills and diversity of thinking to make this all come together like a great big old pot of jambalaya with all the various ingredients to make it the best tasting jambalaya. We have to bring and put everything that we have into the pot. And when we put everything into the pot, and that fire boils, bring it to that boil. We'll know when it's ready. We'll know when it's time. My message is listen to your soul. Listen to your inner voice. That inner voice will guide you. Kwaheri Yakukuona. Goodbye until we meet again.
Well, hopefully that will be soon. On that, once again, I'd like to thank my panel, even Brother Cliff, from coming in the way that he did, the style, pimpish way that he did. Thank you so much. Teach, happy to have you back. Hopefully Monday, because I'm pushing the time back some more. So just let you know. But Keith, thanks so much. Appreciate you watching. Also, we'd like to thank you, the audience, the viewer, for watching the show and keep supporting the show. Thank you so very, very much. If Beast Johnson was here, you probably know he. Bye, farewell. Be as I do. You know how it is. First of all, any alibi before we get on out? I take that as a no. Everybody enjoy your weekend. There's a disease out there. Please don't be a Karen. Don't be a Curtis. Chris, whatever you call them. Be careful out there. Enjoy the weekend. And Teach, once again, thank you for being on the show. Coming back on the show. Thank you, Brother Cliff, for being
My pleasure.
Can't wait till Monday. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another show. Great show. Hashtag here. And the Cliff, aka Cliff. Y'all all have a good one. Y'all later. Bye.